Hi, I'm Jerry Sadler, and if you are worried or even confused about climate change and then even wondering what Noah's Ark's got to do with it, then you need to watch this video. So let's get straight in. Hi guys, how you doing? Now we're all worried about climate change, aren't we? And the things that are happening, global warming and things like that. And yesterday in Davos, Prince Edward was interviewing Sir David Attenborough about that self-same subject, especially about the talk that Sir David did in Poland in the beginning of December 2018, about how if we don't do anything, we just leave things the way they are, that our very civilization will be extinct or near to extinction by about 2050 or 2070, something like that. And in a sense he's right, because we do need to do something. However, people do tend to get mixed up between climate change and global warming. The both of them are not the same. They're two different things. Climate change happens all the time. The last time it happened, it was the Ice Age, some 15,000 years ago. And before that, it was another one that brought the Ice Age. So climate change is happening all the time. I mean, throughout Earth's history, areas, countries, whole world has changed climates in one way or another. Here in UK, Britain used to be a desert at one time. At another time, it was a tropical rainforest. And now, obviously after the snow and ice that covered it, it's a more temperate region. So climate change happens naturally. You can't stop it. Global warming, on the other hand, is a different issue, because we have attributed to global warming over the last couple of hundred years through the heavy industrialization that we've used, all that stuff we've pumped out into the atmosphere and things like that. We can't blame the cows for everything, nor red meat eaters for that matter. So that's only a very minute part of it, if anything of significance. So all the other stuff that's being pumped out into the atmosphere, from coal burning plants, energy plants, to all the traffic chaos in different countries around the world, they're the ones, and things like that, all the industrialization, they're the ones that have contributed most, and are still contributing most, to global warming and greenhouse gases. But if we took all that away, even if we solved all that problem, there would still be climate change. That's going to come anyway. However, the question is, how are we going to be prepared for it? Because yes, we need to do something about the global warming part of it, and that would certainly slow things down, in my opinion. It wouldn't eradicate the problem. It won't get rid of greenhouse gases completely, but certainly we can maybe slow things down to give us a few more decades of time. And we need to use that time wisely. Are we going to be like the people in Noah's day and just ignore all the warnings that climate change has been giving us over the last few decades? Because all this freak weather, these storms, these hurricanes, tsunamis, long dormant volcanoes suddenly erupting, coastline areas being flooded, things like that, they are all warnings that we have to do something. And as much as I like the water, as much as I like lakes and rivers, there's no way in this day and age that I would actually live anywhere near a river or a coastline because of that very issue, because of all the flooding, the seas rising and things like that. Because even if it only rises at the coast, what you have to remember as well, all the rivers, all the tributaries will also be affected. So that'll push the water upstream now, and it'll cause flooding upstream as well. That's my opinion. Now, I'm not a geologist, I'm not a biologist, I'm not a scientist of any description. I'm just someone who thinks a lot and observes and sees patterns. And it's just in my opinion that we certainly do need to do something about global warming to prepare us for what climate change is going to bring us. And there is a growing movement to do something about that to prepare us. And one of the things that we can do obviously is cut down on carbon emissions and things like that, and all that is going to help. But we also have to prepare mentally. We have to be prepared for that transition from the end of this cycle that this climate change is going to bring, the end of this cycle and the start of the new cycle. What are we going to do in between to survive? Because don't forget, every time that there was an ice age, civilizations were lost. The Neanderthals were wiped out by the last ice age, just about, apart from those who had interbred with us anatomically modern humans. But the majority of them were wiped out. And that can happen, and has happened in the past before, as we're finding now in places in Turkey, in Siberia and other places where we're finding ancient civilizations that have been buried for thousands of years, tens of thousands, 20,000 years. And these are being uncovered all the time to prove that, you know, there were other civilizations around long before us. And they obviously were not prepared for the climate change that changed their lives, because they're no longer around. Very few of those survived. And I think that's what the story of Noah and his ark actually depicts. Whether it's an actual event or not, I'll leave that up to you to decide. My personal opinion is, I would say if there was a flood, it was very localized, and it's more like a tsunami. You know, it'd probably been in the known world from their point of view at that time. And whatever civilization was around at that time was certainly dreadfully and drastically affected. And people will say, well, why isn't any evidence of it? Well, how about that it might still be underwater, deep down somewhere in the oceans? Who says it had to be in the Middle East? That could have been another land elsewhere. We don't know that. Just because we haven't found the evidence doesn't mean to say it didn't happen. I do believe something did happen, however not on the scale that's depicted in the Bible, in the Quran and in other ancient writings. So I don't think it was a global flood. But the point of that story is, or that account is, that we should be prepared for what's coming. Because if we're not, then truly civilization as we know it will indeed be lost. It will be an Armageddon, if you like. It will be a time when perhaps humans, the majority of humans as we know them now, will no longer be around. They will no longer exist, except perhaps in little pockets here and there. And then who knows what kind of civilization we'll have after that. Will we have to start all over again and reinvent all that technology that we've done now? Well, we have the technology to use these days to predict what's going to happen, what may happen, and be able to take that action to protect ourselves from that. And it certainly is a worry, you know, for most people these days. And to be honest, I'm not really that worried, because I just feel that we will in the end do the right thing. We will heed the warnings. We will learn from the mistakes of others in the past and do the right thing by taking actions, whatever actions they happen to be, to save not only this planet but all of us that live on it, as well as animal life as well. It's not just us. And we are doing that in many ways. There's a lot of environmentalists out there who are not only just warning, they are taking action as well, and they're being heard, and other actions being taken to protect the environment, to protect some of the animals and so on. We have to look after ourselves as well. So let's not be like those that's recorded in Noah's time. Let's not be those who say, oh, it's never happened before, it's not going to happen now kind of attitude. Because just because it didn't happen before doesn't mean to say it won't. That's all I'd like to say on the subject of climate change in this video. I may come back to this subject at a future time. But I hope you enjoyed that, and I look forward to speaking with you again. And as always, until that time, be and stay blessed.